Welcome to the Bible Savvy Podcast, a weekly conversation about how to understand, enjoy, and apply God's Word. It's time to jump into a new passage from the Bible Savvy reading plan.
Hey everybody, I'm here with Courtney and David. And David, you've got a question for us.
Yeah, no ice cream this week. We just have a simple either or. Would you rather always sing instead of speak or dance everywhere you walk?
Like I kind of do both of those already.
Yeah, it's kind of what you do. This is the Courtney question.
But my rather would be dance everywhere I walk. Like, come on. Again, I already do that.
Yeah, you do a lot of dancing. I do. This is tricky. I feel like I would feel more hindered by singing. Because there are lots of moments where it just would not be appropriate. Although,
like preaching, weekend services.
But when you think about it, if it was like a musical where like you sing a sad song when it's a sad thing, like maybe it actually helps you.
It's like a musical,
because you're like in this moment. And I do actually sing a lot at home. I'm not a good singer, but I will happily make up a musical for my children about whatever they're doing, brushing their teeth or going to bed or eating food or whatever. We'll do that. But I'd still probably choose dancing. I also think you get really good at dancing if you did it everywhere all the time. So it could be great.
Yeah. My answer is dancing too, because I think the singing instead of speaking just practically would really ruin your life, because you're just you're trying to get something solved at the DMV and like they're just staring at you like
making a comment in a meeting.
I'm gonna start writing everything down and just the dancing. I did think, I'm like, well, would your answer change if like even standing or like sitting here like you had to dance the whole time?
Your
answer does not change.
or like, does it change if like you sing half the time but you don't know what half is gonna come in, so you're in the middle of conversation?
Oh, no, that's rough.
Like,
like
what percentage
you're talking
of
for a little while and you're like, I really have something I need to tell you.
It's like, at what point does it change?
Well, no. I mean, in some traditions, you do kind of get into a sing-songy thing in the end.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
What percentage?
Well, good question. I'm gonna be curious to see as people come into church, because that's where everybody tells us their answers. It's I'd be singing. We're gonna find out. All right, we're in Luke chapter 12, continuing in Luke. If you haven't yet, you should go and watch the Bible Project video about Luke. It's actually a two-parter. And there's one that's like the chart of the book, and then there's one that is animated, which I actually think maybe like a 3 or 4-parter. I don't remember, but it's really good. So if you haven't done that, that'd be a great way to get context. We are in the middle of Jesus's ministry. So things have kicked off. We have yet to go to Jerusalem for him to die. He is doing miracles. He is teaching all sorts of stuff. And people are starting to come to him with questions or requests and that sort of thing. And we're going to get some of those right now. So we're going to start in verse 13.
Someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Jesus replied, "Who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you?" Then he said to them, "Watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions." And he told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, "What shall I do? I have no place to store my crops." Then he said, "This is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store my surplus grain. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy. Eat, drink, and be merry." But God said to him, "You fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich toward God." Then Jesus said to his disciples, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or about your body, what you will wear. For life is more than food, and the body more than clothes. Consider the ravens. They do not sow or reap. They have no storeroom or barn, yet God feeds them. And how much more valuable you are than birds. Who of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life? Since you cannot do this very little thing, why do you worry about the rest? Consider how the wildflowers grow. They do not labor or spin. Yet I tell you, not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, how much more will he clothe you, you of little faith? And do not set your heart on what you will eat or drink. Do not worry about it, for the pagan world runs after all such things, and your Father knows that you need them. But seek his kingdom, and these things will be given to you as well. Do not be afraid, little flock, for your Father has been pleased to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give to the poor. Provide purses for yourselves that will not wear out, a treasure in heaven that will never fail, where no thief comes near and no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also.
All right, we're going to turn to the O in comma observations. We're going to see what we see here. What do you got?
Right away in verse 13, it just seems really strange to call out, teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. Yeah. Like it's such a random thing. And, you read what was just being said and it's not like it even related.
Yeah. Why'd you bring that up?
Yeah. Like what?
Yeah. I don't know enough in terms of what was the cultural expectation of teachers and rabbis and things like that. If they saw them as the sort of person who might, be an arbiter between, people, it's almost like an advice column or I just keep thinking of Judge Judy, or like something where it's like they're set up there to be like, all right, let me hear this out. And I'm, as someone who you both consider wise, I'm going to give you something. It seems like that sort of a thing, like that's my gut.
Yep. Yeah.
But it is a little weird.
The study Bible does say disputes over such matters were normally settled by rabbis.
There you go.
There's your study Bible.
The study Bible says we should have just done that.
But, yeah.
I like Jesus' response to it though.
Do you?
Man, I don't know. We just went through like 5 takes of this reading
and you'll note I skipped the word.
Where Courtney could not get the word man out because there was no tone where it made any sense. Man. Who
appointed me a judge?
But it is interesting because when he asked the question, who appointed me as judge? I want to be like, God? Someone did. But I think it's interesting that what Jesus is actually doing is challenging the expectation of what he's going to do for us. Because I think we still do something like this where we say, I've got things in my life that are not the way I want them to be. They feel unfair, et cetera, et cetera. And we come to Jesus and say, fix it. Be the one who makes it okay for me. And we think, okay, Jesus is going to defend my ambitions and help me pursue my goals and fix the problems that I see as whatever, especially if it's someone else being unfair to me. And Jesus is saying, is that really what I'm here for? Is that who I am to you? Because this is actually not him saying, hey, will you be the authority and tell us what's right? It's saying, will you side with me?
Yeah.
We tell my brother.
It's the little brother too, probably, right? Because the older brother got the inheritance. The little brother's like, dude, you got like half, like a third of that or something.
Yeah. Depending how many kids there are, how many boys there are. So,
man.
Shoot. Verse 15. I noticed Jesus says, "Be on your guard against all kinds of greed." It's not just greed, but there are all kinds of greed, which made me have a little question mark and be like, well, all kinds. Well, how many kinds of greed are there? And it got me kind of reflecting a little bit more than just, because we hear the word greed, we instantly think money, we think just grabbing every penny you can. But the fact that he even clarified, like he just added a little bit of something extra just to, I think, cause some reflection in the listener.
Yeah. Oh, that is interesting. Well, because even with money, you could be like stingy. I don't spend very much, or I spend a lot, or there's like lots of different forms where that takes. I thought be on your guard or like watch out was an interesting way to say it. It's like, it's going to jump out at you. Like that's not how you think of it. But I think I heard Tim Keller say once, like greed is one of the sins where you don't always realize you're doing it when you're doing it. Like if you're murdering someone, if you're committing adultery, you're like, oh, that's not my wife, right? Like, but in this case, you don't think you're greedy. Like you have a tendency to accept on reflection to think I'm just being reasonable, or I'm just, taking care of me and my own, or whatever it is. It feels justified because there's always someone who's more greedy than you. And there's always a reason why you're doing what you're doing with your money. And so you actually have to pay closer attention to even realize you're doing it.
Yeah. And I looked into a little more. I was looking at greed and like what greed means and a little bit more of that thought. And I kept thinking of it as like never having enough, never being satisfied, never, because even in that, being greedy with a little bit of what you have, there's a sense of, okay, even what I have is not enough. Yeah. I can't share. I can't, be generous.
Another observation I had was just in the parable he tells, where the rich man yields an abundant harvest. He doesn't have enough place to store it. So he there's a moment where he said, I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store my surplus. There's I guess it just stuck out to me because I felt like, wow, what obnoxious work, to like knock down these four walls, this work, like just you're just basically spending money to spend money at that point, and just how wasteful it felt. Like there was work that was done. There wasn't even just like, I'll just add on something like, no, I'm going to tear it all down and build an even bigger one. Like there's so much pride, I feel like, in that, like, I've got enough money, I can do whatever I want. Like there's an arrogance, I think, that is coming from the text there.
Well, and even just the thought that his first thought, he thought to himself, what should I do? I have an abundant harvest. What should I do? I don't have anywhere to store my crops, which he does because he's saying, I'll tear down the barns I have and build bigger ones. And I'm thinking, like I have an abundance of some of my garden crops. And what do? I bring a box of them into work.
Yeah, you try to give away.
Yeah, like
all
I
the
put
tomatoes
it at the end
and
of my
cucumbers.
driveway,
It's like,
and I
please
say,
take
who
the
wants
zucchini.
this? Yes.
Yeah.
One of our IT guys here makes salsa.
Yes.
James and his wife, and he gives out a ton of salsa because they just have a huge garden, and it's amazing.
It's
salsa.
Delicious. Very good. Maybe that's the next thing that we get to eat on the air.
I have not experienced
We'll have to wait a year. He just did it a little bit ago. I think in this parable, the thing that's striking to me is the contrast between the guy's perception of security. Like I'm going to store it up, and I'm going to be fine for a long time. I'm going to be good. And the immediate like shattering of the mirage of control. Like it's a total illusion. He thinks I have control. And I think money, possessions, those sorts of things fools us into thinking we have more handle on our life than we do. And the reality is you're one diagnosis away. You're one wrong, bad left turn away from not being in control. And Jesus is actually merciful to say, can I shatter this before you have to face it yourself? Can I tell you the story where you can see it really obviously? This guy was a fool, and we are fools when we think, if I just save enough, if I just have enough, set aside for retirement or save for my kids or whatever, that I'm going to be fine. There's nothing true about that. There's nothing true about that. Because it's not in your control. Not the money, not your kids, not your future, not you.
None of it.
None of it. And it's foolish to think otherwise.
Verse 21, this is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich toward God. What is it to be rich toward God? Is that just a spiritual?
What I wrote. Yeah.
Wait, you both wrote it down? I was going to turn the question back on you guys.
Man.
It's super abstract. Like the idea, like, I mean, we can kind of jump to conclusions based on other things we read in scripture, but that is it's an interesting question. I started to think in terms of like directional navigation, like, well, toward God. I was thinking like if you're rich in the direction of God instead of yourself, or you're staring at your own things, like I'm rich toward, my own desires, but I'm rich toward, like you're moving in a direction toward the Lord. But it is a really abstract phrase.
Yeah. And I don't know what to do with the preposition there, but the later in the passage when it talks about sell possessions, give to the poor, and provide purses for yourself that will not wear out, a treasure in heaven that will never fail. No thief comes near, no moth destroys. There's some idea that's still kind of abstract, but there's some idea of saying, where is the treasure that I have? Where is the wealth that I have? It's not just where's it located physically, it's where's it located in time. So, like if you encounter someone who has an inheritance coming, and it's in a trust, or their parents are alive or whatever, but they're like really wealthy. That person might be like, look, I'm 22, I'm working at a coffee shop or whatever, and they don't look very wealthy, but they know they are. Like they're genuinely wealthy in the future, and there's nothing really that's going to threaten that. There's a different way you act in the present. If you might be scrounging or panicking, or you never are. If you are like, look, in the matter of 15 or 20 years, I will be more wealthy than I need, than I ever need. And I think Jesus is saying, if your sense of where your actual wealth is present, you're missing it. But if your sense of where your net worth is sometime in the future, namely the kingdom of God, then that attitude changes how you behave. You don't worry in the same way when you know that's happening. Something like that.
Well, I circled the bold phrase at the top of the next section, so between verses 21 and 22, that says, "Do not worry." And I did that because we don't always bring up exactly everything you're looking for in observations, but I just taught a bunch of our EPIC leaders about the comma method. And one of the things that I said, as well as teaching leaders in Nicaragua recently about the comma method, and one of the things that we always say is sometimes the biggest win for a kid who doesn't always like find all the things or feel like they know what to say, the biggest win is like you can find the theme by reading the bold phrase at the top of the section.
Yeah.
So if you can't make an observation anywhere else and you're struggling with that, you can say, hey, the theme of this next little passage is do not worry.
Yeah, that's really good. Hey, and since you mentioned Nicaragua, can we give a shout out
to
please. Guillermo and Gabby?
Yes.
Our partners there.
Love them.
We know you are regular viewers and listeners to this, so we love you. We just want you to know it. Okay. What else do you guys see?
I mean, verse 25, I love a good rhetorical question. Verse 25, who of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life? Like I find that's one of the most helpful instructions that's not instructions.
Yeah.
That Jesus offers. He's like, hey, I'm just going to give you a really probing question that you're going to have to reflect on and realize, yeah, good point. Like I think just practically speaking, Jesus is just a master teacher by asking great questions.
Yeah. My favorite part is the follow-up sentence where it says, since you can't even do this very little thing, like extend your lifespan. And I'm like,
yes,
that's a little thing, and certainly from God's perspective, it is.
Yeah.
If I wanted to give you an hour, I could give you an hour. It'd be pretty easy. And we don't always take seriously how, again, out of control, we're not in control of our lives. And something that should be, relatively simple for the God of the universe.
I just love all the references to creation as well. Just the thoughts of the ravens and the flowers. And, I think that it really makes there's such familiar things that maybe we take for granted, but to ask you to consider them, like the word consider is in both of those sentences, is actually asking you to look a little further than your normal kind of material goods, right? Like you're not, he's saying, hey, consider the ravens. Well, when I consider the ravens, it's usually when I'm on a walk, when I'm, that's when I consider birds. And I'm not thinking about what I'm going to eat and what I'm going to wear and all of those things. At least I hope I'm not. I mean, I'm sure there are people who are super into their hiking boots, but I'm not. So
your running shoes.
We gotcha.
Man, conviction hurts. And the wildflowers. When I consider how the wildflowers grow, I'm walking through, fields of wildflowers. Or I'm looking out and seeing those. And so even just the way he words it makes you go, let me take a step back. Let me get outside of this world and this thing, especially after such a concrete parable. And let me look at this a little bit bigger. It challenges you to kind of take that 30,000 foot view.
Yeah. I noticed the reference to Solomon in verse 27, which is very, very interesting because they've already talked about being a fool. Right. So this guy who thought he was wise and in some ways is being very practical, like Solomon would be like, hey, you know what you should do? You should, think about the money you have and what you're going to do, like all of these sorts of things. And so Solomon is this guy who is known for his wisdom, but also known for his wealth that God gave him. And yet that wealth led to his downfall. So there's like a multi-layered thing. It's like, oh, Solomon was dressed really great. And, God's going to provide even better for the flowers and for you and whatever. And yet, you also see the warning of a guy who lets those things go to his heart. It doesn't go well for him. Yeah. And I also think it's interesting that the next line is, it's like the grass of the field that's here today and gone tomorrow. And And Solomon also, like the book of Ecclesiastes, is like everything's fleeting. There's like where's the wisdom? It's in knowing that some things are very temporary, and you cannot like build your foundation on those things. If you do that, you're going to be a fool.
31 is a great just sort of wrap to this moment where he gives the alternative. He said, "But seek His kingdom." So it's like, don't do this, do this. And then he gives him like the affirmative, then do this, just seek God's kingdom. And all these things will be given to you as well. And then verse 32, says, "Do not be afraid, little flock." And I just circled little flock.
Yeah. So did I. It's adorable.
Right. Like it's like a very endearing, like I'm just picturing Jesus teaching this. And a little bit of why it stuck out to me is in contrast to not man, but in verse 20, but God said to him, "You fool, this night your life will be diminished." So the contrast for like verse 20, like "you fool," and then "little flock," it feels a little bit like Jesus is addressing two different types of people, like the sort of prideful, arrogant, stingy, and then the other person who's just like genuinely fearful, like not trying to be greedy, but very concerned that how am I going to pay the bills? And so there is a level that like money can be a concern for the rich and the poor, and Jesus addresses a little bit of both here.
All kinds of greed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all kinds.
Well, but the other piece of the little flock, right, is like a shepherd and a sheep.
Yeah.
It's that picture. It's another one of those pictures you got to back up to see the whole picture, and the idea that shepherds provide security and protection for their flock. And so for him to say, "Do not be afraid, little flock, for your Father has been pleased to give you the kingdom."
Yeah. Yeah, my last observation is that word "pleased." I think it is one thing to say, I think God was kind to me that I didn't deserve, and he kind of tolerated the fact that I messed up, and yet he was still good to me. I'm thankful for that. But to think, no, he's pleased. Like it makes him really excited. He's not doing it reluctantly or just perfunctorily or because it's the right thing or whatever. He's like, no, what would make me really, really happy is if I could give you the kingdom. Wouldn't that be? Oh, it would just make my day. It would make my eternity. To like give you all of this. And I think we think God is so reluctant to love us, is so reluctant to be good to us, which again is where the fear comes from. If you think, well, like I got to kind of convince him, or I got to like not really mess this up. Then of course you're on edge. But if you're like, this is going to be the greatest, you can trust him with that.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to meditation. We'll start with that M of comma. I'm going to read to you verses 29 through 31 here, and just grab onto something from that and go prayerfully talk to God. Just talk with him about how you're reacting to it, how it applies to your life. Do not set your heart on what you will eat or drink. Do not worry about it. For the pagan world runs after all such things, and your Father knows that you need them. But seek his kingdom, and these things will be given to you as well. All right, let's talk about that other M and comma, message. How would you guys sum this up?
My message was temporary treasure equals anxiety in the present. Eternal concern equals security in the present. And I said eternal concern. I kind of wrestled with that second part of the phrase because in verse 31, when it says, "But seek his kingdom," to me, that just kind of was like you should have the appropriate level of concern that you are seeking his kingdom, that you are actually actively doing something, not passively saying like, I have eternal security. I hope you feel that and you know that. But I love that the word seek is in there because I would hope that we are people who seek his kingdom, that we are people who seek to, who have concern for what is eternal.
Yeah.
And so, yep.
Yeah. My message is be rich toward God by being financially generous and emotionally healthy. There's a both and. There is a very practical, like, hey, don't store up stuff for yourself. Like, be generous, give away, be kingdom minded.
Yeah.
And also the emotionally healthy side of, like, don't worry because it can't add anything to your life.
Yeah.
Can I add just something to, again, this is a little bit more that comma method teaching piece that is like running through my brain, because this one has a lot of the elements of writing a message. Like it's got sins to confess. It has, promises to claim. Yeah. It has all of the pieces.
Okay, for those of you who may not know exactly what Courtney is referring to, there is another acronym in comma. It is a lesser known acronym, easily forgotten. We don't refer to it as often as we do treats, but it's one that helps with formulating a message, which for some people they say, how do I actually get to a principle? So it's SPECS.
Yes.
SPECS.
Yes.
SPECS. And so it is S, sin to confess. P,
promises
to claim. E, examples to follow. C, command to obey.
Yes.
And the other S is statement about God. So it's like your truth about God, but it becomes the message. So sometimes if you're saying, I don't know how you get that, you might say, oh, is there one of these things? And that's an easy way to get a message. So
now you're the one who needs to get
I have my message. Okay. My message is play the long game. Don't stress about the short term. So it's that store of treasures in the kingdom. All right, let's talk about the A and comma application. What do we do?
Oh man, I got super practical. I need to give some stuff away.
Yeah?
I just need to give some stuff away.
Do you have things in mind?
I mean, I've saved stuff, and really I think almost out of convenience, I even have some of my kids' clothing things, and my kids are old.
Oh, like when they were younger?
And some of them are precious. Like some of those things, I do believe you save some things and you're like, oh, look, I'll take pictures of my grandkids on them someday. We'll see if I actually do that, but I might do it. But also there was a little bit of I'll just hold on to these things, just in case. Or we were realizing there's some of our kids' toys that we held on to, again, kind of doing the someday we'll be the cool grandparents who have all the little people and all the, calico critters and all that stuff. But maybe it's time to take some of those things and give them away because it's okay. I can also be the cool grandma who purchases new toys for my grandkids.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. My message was be rich toward God by being financially generous and emotionally healthy. So my application is to actually ask a question that I learned from a guy named Steve Cuss that I use quite often when I feel like I'm worrying or I'm stressed about things. And the question is this: what do I think I need that I don't really need? So when I'm starting to feel anxious, when I'm stressed, when I'm overwhelmed, when I feel all kinds of things under the surface that feel unhealthy, I start to ask my question, ask myself, what is it? What story am I telling myself to convince myself that I need something in this moment that I can rationally understand that I don't really need? And most of the time I can find that thing that I'm worrying about or that thing, financially or whatever, and saying, I don't really need that. But I've convinced myself, I've told myself this story over and over that I think I need this. So it's got me all out of whack and out of step with the Holy Spirit. And so I find that question unlocks this whole section for me. That it's a little bit in that question of who of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life. Like you think you need to worry to add an hour to your life, and Jesus is saying you don't really need that, right? And it's like, oh yeah, that's true. I don't need that. And so you just kind of rewind the tape a little bit to figure out where you got off track.
Yeah. Steve Cuss, he wrote Managing Leadership Anxiety.
Yes.
It's a fantastic book. Really good.
Yes.
So my message was play the long game. Don't stress about the short term. And my application, I had two ideas. One is to be 1 degree more generous than I'm comfortable with. There's something that stretches you to say, I'm not worried about now. I'm going to play the long game by just saying, okay, this is where I feel like, I'm willing to do this. This is okay. And there's a comfortable generosity. And then there's but I'm just going to up it one little bit. You don't have to double it or whatever. I mean, maybe you want to double it, but if you just stretch yourself to that place of saying, I feel it a little bit, it forces you to say, where's my treasure at? The other one I have is actually based off of the little parable where he's saying, I've got all this surplus, I'm going to store it up forever. There's something really practical about saying, where's the finish line? Like, how do you actually know you have enough? Like, the guy hit the limit of his barns and decided he would tear them down and build new ones because he didn't think, well, the barn was not the limit. The barn wasn't enough. I need more. And I think there are plenty of people who wouldn't actually know when they reached, I'm okay. I got what I need. And to actually be able to answer that question, this is enough, frees you up to not worry about the rest. The rest can be for kingdom purposes.
Thanks for hanging out with us. Join us again next Monday for a new episode where we'll be looking at another passage from the Bible Savvy reading schedule. And in the meantime, if you're not following along with the reading plan, check out BibleSavvy.com. Also, you can subscribe and leave a review on whatever platform you're listening or watching on. Email us your questions or suggestions at podcast@BibleSavvy.com. Lastly, tell your friends, and we'll talk to you next week.